We're now going live to Caracas as Diosdado Cabello, the Interior and Peace Justice Minister, is offering statements. Let's listen. And of the bands of any kind, a criminal alliance that has tried to be imposed here in Venezuela with the sole objective of seizing power. And they have not been able, they were not able to do it through the votes. So they are looking now in any way to achieve it. They don't care what alliances they have to make with criminals, assassins, terrorists, with drug traffickers. They don't care at all. So it's our duty to recall what we have been doing for a while now in a joint work. We have been working all over the Venezuelan borders and throughout the territory. Our borders are protected. There is a mechanism that our Bolivarian forces have designed, and I'm certain that some might have listened and have heard of las urras, and we must clarify what this means, what URRA means. URRA is a unit of quick reaction forces to be able to effectively operate in the face of any situation in a country. So this unit has a flexible protocol to be able to face anything that comes. So we have these units deployed all over the country, and depending on the area and the risks, the units are provided with the necessary personnel, equipment. Now, before it was only the Bolivarian Armed Forces, but now it's the Bolivarian Armed Forces together with police forces, the militia, which also actively incorporated, and the result has been the guarantee of peace and security for all Venezuelans. And without doubt, it has been effective and efficient. When you hear that there is a URRA unit, it's a combat unit to respond quickly to any situation. So they have been deployed in different points of the country under the order of President of the Bolivarian Republic. So I was making this context because based on these operations where the quick response units have been the Bolivarian Armed Forces, we have presented before the country in different occasions the seizure of weapons of different calibers. Only last week, some of you were in Miranda State, in the municipality of Latillo with us, and we showed very powerful weapons that were destined, almost all of them, for snipers. But they also have the structure to produce, for the mass production of bullets. It was a strong hit that was provided in that operation, coordinated by the police. These teams are very well integrated, work together, act together, and it's providing very immediate results. In different occasions, we have given press briefings. The last figure of rifles that were seized in customs and police actions was over 480. This without counting the ones from last week. So the quick reaction forces, they go and face the encampments and they take care of everything in most cases. We have seized an unbelievable amount of drugs this year, an amount that overcomes any kind of calculation. They know it those that produce it, they know it, and those that consume it, they know it as well. Everything that we have done, they know it. Whoever tries to pass drugs through Venezuela, they know that they're going to find a strong response here. And one is listening now craziness, because now they are saying that Venezuela produces drugs, but we say that we don't produce drugs, and it's not because we are saying it. It was said by a UN report who clarified that no drugs were produced in Venezuela. So here we have, this is a reality of that report, that most drugs are produced in Colombian drug. That UN report, among other things, provides these figures, but also says that Venezuela is a country free of crops. What does this mean? That we don't sow any kind of drugs here. And that report also says that Venezuela is free of any laboratories, which means that Venezuela does not process any kind of drug from the harvest to the final product for the final consumption. The UN report also says that traffic through Venezuela is also very, very limited, which are the three conditions to consider if there is drug trafficking in a country. According to this, we must say this once and again, this is a UN report. According to it, Colombia produces over 1,600 tons of cocaine and 450 tons of marijuana for an approximate of 2,120 tons of drugs. 87% of that drug produced in Colombia goes through the Pacific. If we see the map, it goes out the Pacific. This is the Pacific here. Specifically, through which countries? Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. 87%. How much is that? 1,845 tons. Where is that drug headed to? For the consumers, the main consumers, especially in the US. 1,845 tons of the total of drugs produced in Colombia goes through the Pacific. And 8%, which is 169 tons, 8% goes through the Colombian Caribbean coast, through La Guajira. So these are figures, I say again, from the UN. Only a 5% tries to exit through the Venezuelan Caribbean coast. I want to say tries to, I do it with emphasis, because I think it's try to go out, and another thing is to achieve it. Because this year alone, according to these figures, 106 tons, which represents 5%. This year, without ending the month of August, we have already seized over 52,000 kilograms of drugs, which means 52.7 tons of drugs. So almost half of what in theory should go through Venezuela according to UN figures. So we are not making them up. So that report, you see, do they take this report? Is it broadcast in the world? It is not. The first person that should be broadcasting this report is the UN, and it does not do it. Is the DEA interested for this report to be known? And of course, the answer is no, because it is the greatest drug cartel in the world, because it's the one that controls all the drugs that enters the US. It's a scandal. But we do fight against drug trafficking here. Not in specific moments to try to cover something else. We fight here from its roots. And as we have been speaking, that's where the role of the popular military police fusion comes into play. The quick reaction forces to face any kind of circumstances. And that's what has led our colleagues from the Bolivarian Armed Forces and those that take part in those operations to find campings that have been destroyed in the state of Zulia, in the state of Tamacuro, in Falcón, in Táchira, because they have tried to do something here, these groups of criminals, but they have not been able to do it. That's why 87% of the drugs go out through the Pacific. It's also an issue of geopolitics. Who govern Ecuador and Peru? Something that you might ask, because those government of Ecuador and Peru, they permit a lot in terms of drugs. Why was there a fraud in Ecuador and why was there a coup in Peru? It looks like if they want to facilitate the exit of drugs. That's why they're demanding a regime change in Venezuela, because for them it will be a haven for their drug trafficking schemes. We have destroyed encampments. This includes the logistics, the fuel logistics, the food, shelter logistics, where people were taking shelter. You're going to see a video of the tireless work of our men and women that are deployed all over the territory. That has led to the destruction of airplanes. We have destroyed 400 airplanes. 400. We must remember that the National Assembly, since that law was approved, these actions began. Why? Because it's one of the media that drug trafficking cartels used to take their drugs to other places. And once that was detected, we quickly, our planes that cover and protect our sky, they take off and began to do the corresponding warnings to those that are violating our airspace. Policeans, they go to an airport, they are escorted to an airport, and the ones that do not listen, we act. Also, from talking about airplanes, is also the airstrips, the clandestine airstrips that we have destroyed, because they land where there is no machinery. Our colleague Domingo Hernandez can say more on how they operate. They arrive in the middle of the jungle, they create an airstrip, and then it is destroyed. Our police, our soldiers, they begin to put holes on the airstrip. In the case that we have explosive, we destroy it with explosive. We're going to have enough explosive now because we have seized a lot of explosives. So the airstrip is rendered useless, and when someone lands, it crashes with a hole, and that's why the airplane is destroyed. And also rockets are fired at the airstrips to destroy it, day and night. We have destroyed boats, submarines, which are the semi-submersible vessels, shipwright, where they built yesterday in an operation that we have been carrying out for several days now in the Tamacuro state. We found some shipwrights there. They fled, and then we detained some citizens of Colombian nationality which are experts in fibers, in the construction of these semi-submersibles. They comment on who took them there, on who they tried to take the drugs, take everything. It's all over the national territory where we have done these operations. From one side to the other of the country. And there's always going to be some people defending the drug traffickers of the drug trafficking gangs, and they come out and try to explain, supposedly experts, defenders of drug trafficking and the drug gangs, and then they clash with reality. They clash with the reality of the action of our Bolivarian forces, police forces, and organized people. So with us is right now the governor of the Zulia state, Freddy Bernal as well, from governor of the Táchira state, also brother Domingo Hernandez, General-in-Chief and Strategic Commander, Division Chief Hector, José Luis Tremón, Commander of Air Defense, Vice Minister Santrea, Ruben Santiago from the National Police, Alexis Rodriguez,
Bolivariana, el comisario Miguel Domínguez, el coronel Granco, el comisario Douglas Rico, que ha pasado aquí, el clandestino Douglas Rico. Es un equipo.
So it's a full team, full working team.
Y la presencia de los hermanos gobernadores,
and the presence of our brother governors has to do with that instruction given by the President of the Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Bolivarian Armed Forces. Before making the announcement, the video is ready, because this must be said. How in Venezuela we fight daily against drug trafficking in all fronts. The encampments that they try to establish along our border. We have that video, let's see it. That is every day.
Campamento que encontramos o campamentos donde
Camp,
tratan de
encampments
instalar
that we find, they try to establish, and we have found communication devices. So it's good that it is known, because when drug traffickers are there,
dejan el pelero y dejan todo.
when we get close, they flee and they leave everything behind.
Ahí tenemos ahorita 10.380
Over
compañeros desplegados.
10,000 people are currently deployed.
Se han destruido
We have destroyed in the last days 10 encampments,
5 laboratorios,
5 laboratories,
28 estructuras logísticas,
28
3
logistic
astilleros,
structures,
pero esta semana llevamos
3
6,
shipwrecks, but this week we already go by 6.
52.769 kilos de droga y
52,000
153.000
kilograms
precursores
of drugs
de precursores de droga.
and over 15,000 kilograms of drug precursors.
92 pistas
Over 400
destruidas.
airplanes
Ustedes vieron el
neutralized,
video cómo en el
92
medio del
airstrips
cerro se
destroyed
destruye la pista a mano.
by hand.
A veces ocurre que están operando y es lo que tienen, pues. Artefactos explosivos el país ha visto.
Explosive devices, the country has borne witness how many explosives we have seized.
A veces incuantificable por los distintos tipos. Detonantes, cordones,
Detonators,
la semana pasada
fire line.
lo anunciamos, 3.000
Last week we announced it, over 3,000 detonators and over
1.800 metros de
1,800 meters of fire line
esto fue en el Zulia, una operación
wire
en el
in
Zulia.
Zulia,
Armas cortas decomisadas,
handguns,
armas largas, cargadores,
rifles,
cartuchos y fábricas de
magazines,
cartuchos.
bullets and
Se han
the
detenido
factories to
más de
produce
6.000
them.
personas,
Over
94
6,000 people have been
embarcaciones,
detained,
5
94
semisumergibles,
vessels have been destroyed, 5
80 motores de
semi-submersibles.
alta potencia que lo utilizan pues para huir. Todo esto,
All this,
hoy está, lo que son equipamientos, hoy está la orden de nuestra Fuerza
everything that is equipment
trabajando
is
desplegado de la Fuerza
at the
Policial
hand of our
desplegado
armed
en
forces
toda Venezuela.
and being used by them right now, deployed all over the
De
country.
avión, gasolina,
Fuel,
diésel,
jet fuel,
más de
diesel,
169.000
gasoline, over
litros de
169,000 liters of different types of fuels.
Aquí sí combatimos el
We
narcotráfico.
fight
Aquí
drug
sí
trafficking here.
combatimos las narcobandas.
We fight against
En todos
drug
los
gangs in all fronts.
Y ahí ha habido detención de funcionarios,
And
detenidos y aparecen.
There have been detained, we have
Cuando
detained
nos metimos en
officials
Zulia,
if there are
saben que ahí se
people
desmanteló.
involved in this. When we got to Zulia State, that we dismantled there, mayors,
Vinculado,
linked,
funcionarios vinculados, hasta jueces,
public officials,
funcionarios
judges,
del Ministerio Público vinculados,
public ministry officials as well, linked
para que no pasara nada en el sur.
so that nothing would happen in Zulia.
Presidente,
So
ha
our
dado
president has given an instruction.
ayer estuvimos,
Yesterday
estuvimos reunidos,
we met,
tuvimos una reunión y la gente
we held a meeting, and people will, today
en el búnker,
we're meeting in the bunker,
en el búnker, estamos en un búnker, 300 metros bajo tierra,
300 meters on the ground.
¿verdad, Freddy? Búnker. Supieron lo que hay en ese búnker para defender la patria.
If only you knew what was there in that bunker to defend the homeland.
Ayer en una reunión,
Yesterday in a
se ha venido
meeting,
trabajando desde hace días
we have been working on this for several days, because this is an announcement that was made by our president like a month ago,
binacionales, las zonas
the
de paz.
binational areas of peace.
Presidente ha decidido activar
So our president has decided to
de manera inmediata
activate
la zona de paz
immediately
número 1.
the Zone of Peace
Paz,
number 1,
ponme el mapa, por favor,
the Zone of Peace number 1,
que incluye
that
el
includes
estado Táchira,
Táchira
el
State
estado Zulia,
and Zulia State.
Zulia y Táchira. Zona
Zulia
de
and
paz.
Táchira, Zone of Peace number 1,
Y ha ordenado
and has
el
ordered, president has
un gran
ordered
refuerzo operacional de lo
a
que ya
great
existe,
reinforcement to the operations that already exist there, because we are already working there since
bastante tiempo
for a long time now,
desplegado con URA,
deployed
con operaciones.
with quick response units and with police and military operations.
Recuerden cuando
Remember
ocurrió en el Tibú del lado
when
colombiano,
in Tibu on the Colombian side
trataron de
that they tried,
los defensores de las
the
narcobandas
defenders
decir que
of
fue
drug
territorio
trafficker
venezolano.
tried to say that it was on Venezuelan territory. All that happened on the Colombian territory. We went there to that area in Catatumbo. Those that defended the drug traffickers, they did not know that there was a Catatumbo also well on the Venezuelan side. And we went there and we cared for the displaced due to violence in Colombia. Venezuela has historically been that. Where there is violence on the other side, the people from Colombia goes to Venezuela where there is no violence. They don't stay where there is violence. So the president has ordered reinforcement in the operations, especially in the Relámpago operation in Catatumbo, and has brought it to the area of Táchira as the Son of Peace #1, and has ordered in a first stage a deployment of 15,000 men and women. 15,000 men and women on the Venezuelan side. 2 reinforcements on the ones that we have already until the edges of Táchira state. Then will came the Son of Peace #2 and Son of Peace #3. All these has borders with our brother Colombia. All this area here is the border Colombia-Venezuela. That deployment has already begun. We are here and the deployment is underway. This special reinforcement includes equipments, troops, aviation, drones for the safeguard of our borders. 15,000 men. So we ask the Colombian government, with whom we have been cooperating, that we call on them to do the same on the Colombian side, to safeguard peace in the area, to evict those that want to settle there to commit crimes in the border area. This announcement, without doubt, will echo, will have an impact on peace and security. And peace is the main principle of Venezuelans. When there is peace, people are at ease. There are investors, those that produce in peace. We must remember, if anyone has still a doubt, we must remind them how the state of Táchira was before Freddy Bernard arrived to the governorship. And this country will remember how the Zulia state was before the arrival of Luis Caldero. Those are areas of total peace. Whoever has a link with criminals and criminal groups, they will have to take on their responsibilities as we take on ours. If our people can be certain that those areas, we will make all the efforts, and we'll also have the 15,000 men will have the full support of the police forces. This is not only the Bolivarian forces, this is a joint work, a teamwork. I guarantee that right now, being here, as we stand here, there are operations on their way, and I'm certain that some encampment software is being destroyed. Campaments that people that unfortunately come from Colombia try to settle here, and this is not new. It's not new that all these criminal activities come mainly from Colombia, and it's not new that most drugs are produced in Colombia. What is new that the world here now is that 87% of the drug produced in Colombia goes through the Pacific, because one hears the spokespersons of these drug trafficking gangs that say things without any kind of proof, misinform on their own country with the aim of harming their own country. Recently, we received information of a drug that was in Colombia and that was going through the state of Falcón, and very quickly our personnel went into action and seized over 100 kilograms, I think it was. And in high sea, we also seized 2 different locations that were used for fuel, as a fuel station, to provide fuel to to vessels used by drug traffickers, and the same as submersibles. Our armed forces and our aviation, during their patrols, they see, we move, and then we neutralize. And we must repeat this every day, because there are people, it's very difficult, that the media that aim to destabilize Venezuela report on this. And that's why we always say that when the New York Times is the one saying this, is when they are going to believe it. When that UN report is presented by the New York Times, that's when they're going to believe it. That's when they're going to go like, oh look, Venezuela is only 5%, and we have been told that it was 40. And I say again, this is what they try to take through Venezuela, because at the rate we are going through, we should be around 70–80% of the drug seized of what they try to take through Venezuela. If there's any question.
La primera pregunta la realiza Marcos Salgado por Hispan TV.
¿Cómo está, ministro? Buen día.
Good morning, Minister. I wanted to ask, as you are making this announcement of the establishment of this Son of Peace, how is the People's Power incorporated, the civil structure that are already incorporating defense? We saw over the weekend the incorporation of more militiamen. Is this foreseen, articulation in that sense in the border region? On the Venezuelan side, our people is a fundamental part of a fusion among the people, our police and armed forces. The people are the ones that provide the first alert. They are the ones that are on the field. When Catatumbo, the first person to report on this was the people, reporting that there were a lot of people coming from Colombia because there are combats on the other side. And very quickly we deployed, and we took, and the armed forces deployed there with helicopters, and we install and we create a shelter for the displaced. We care for them. We took them to cities like San Antonio del Táchira, so that they could return back to Colombia through safer areas. That's our people. It's already incorporated. And those that have benefited the more are the producers that are in that area working, the food producers that have their farms. Because you saw that video, those are very hard to reach places. Well, in that sector, in this sector, for example, here, our brother governor knows in this sector, these are like marshlands, so the tide goes down and it's one kind of land, and when the tide comes up, it's a different scenario.
Estos son
So
montañas.
it's the same over here.
Esto de aquí
These
son
are
montañas,
mountains,
pero montañas intrincadas.
very steep
El pueblo es
mountains.
el primero,
So the people is the
el
first
primero que informa,
to
que nos
report,
dice,
that tells
aquí
us,
pasó.
go here.
Inmediatamente la inteligencia
Very
popular
quickly,
se activa.
people's intelligence is activated.
A nosotros nos llegó una información.
We received
hace unos
information
días se la
some
dieron.
days ago. I handed it over to the
¿Quién la dio? Nuestro
head
pueblo.
of the agency.
Resultado,
Where did it come from? From the people.
lo que
And the
nos
result,
informó era
extremely successful. What the people was reporting was true.
de mentir.
The
Gracias.
people has no need to lie.
La segunda pregunta la realiza Oscar Pineda por Unión Radio.
Hola, buenas tardes, ministro.
Good
También saludo a
afternoon,
todo su
Minister.
equipo.
Greetings
Tengo
to
una pregunta.
the whole team.
¿Cómo le va? Tengo dos preguntas. En primer
I have
lugar,
two questions.
ministro,
Firstly,
en estas horas previas al
in
anuncio
these
que usted
hours
hace
before the
del
announcement that
reforzamiento de la
you made
seguridad en esa
of the
zona
reinforcement of that
binacional, ¿ha
security,
existido
binational
comunicación con el
security,
gobierno colombiano?
has there been communication with the Colombian government?
Detalles al
I would
respecto.
like
Y
to have
también,
details on that.
en el
And
mapa que
also
mostraba
on the
decía
map
que
that you showed,
más de 6.000
you said that over
personas habían
6,000
sido detenidas
people
en el periodo
had been
enero-agosto
detained
de este
from
año.
January
Quisiera saber
to
si tiene
August
detalles
this year.
acerca de
I would
cuántos
like
de
to
ellos
know
son venezolanos
if you
o
have in
extranjeros.
detail how many are Venezuelans or foreigners. Thank you.
Tenemos
Well,
afortunadamente
fortunately,
muy buena
we have
relación
very good
con el gobierno
relations
actual de
with the current government of Colombia.
Excelente relación.
Excellent relations.
Ministro de la Defensa,
The Defense Minister
Vladimir Padrino.
Vladimir Padrino
Estaba aquí en
yesterday
el
was with
la
our
división
ambassador
Martínez Mendoza. Estaba aquí en Venezuela
here in Venezuela,
informando detalles.
reporting details.
Constantemente tenemos
Constantly we have communication. Freddy Bernal meets with his counterpart constantly. It's a border that is alive, it's very active.
Ahora nosotros pedimos que así como Venezuela hace este
What we
despliegue
ask is
a
that
lo largo
as
de
Venezuela
todo
does this
el
deployment all
Venezuela
over
tiene
its
un
border,
poco más de 2.000
Venezuela has over 2,000 kilometers, 2,200 kilometers
fácil,
of border.
que como nosotros nos desplegamos de este lado, esta es la zona binacional.
This
la
is the
zona de paz
binational,
número
this is
uno.
the area, the zone of peace number 1, that includes Táchira and Zulia.
Ya estamos preparando
We are
la zona
preparing
binacional,
the
la
zone,
zona de paz
the zone of peace
número
number
dos,
2
y la zona de
and the
paz
zone
número
of peace number 3.
que requiere, pues, una
That requires, of course,
Ya
a
ahí
planning.
tenemos despliegue.
We already have deployments there. In those areas, we have already some deployments. But for example, in the Apure state,
Hay agua por todos lados en este instante. Quien trate de meterse por el estado Apure,
we are all over there right now.
seguramente vio lo que ocurrió aquí en Venezuela, pues, con las inundaciones.
It's completely
Claro, y
flooded.
hemos pedido la reciprocidad del lado colombiano. Cada
And
quien
yes,
atiende
we have
su
asked
frontera.
also for the same actions
Colombia
from the
atiende su
Colombian
frontera,
side, each taking care of their own border. Because if Colombia takes care of its border and we do the same of ours, the result can only be
No va a
success.
haber ningún tipo de delincuencia alrededor de
There will be no
y que nuestro
delinquency
pueblo
along the
haga
border,
lo que
and that
históricamente han hecho.
our peoples do what they have always done, live in
Pasan de
peace.
Colombia a Venezuela, pasan de
Go
Venezuela
from
a
Colombia to Venezuela and from Venezuela to Colombia as well.
Estas cosas nosotros, además de informarlas yo ahora, se le informó
These
al gobierno
aspects,
colombiano,
besides informing them
para que
now,
lo tengan en cuenta.
they were also, the Colombian government was informed as well. And
Se hizo a través del ministro
they were pleased. They welcomed the idea, and the information was done through defense ministries.
Eso es parte de tener un vecino con el cual tú puedes hablar,
This
un gobierno con el cual puedes hablar. Cuando no hay
this
esfuerzo
happens when you have a neighbor,
del
a
lado
government
colombiano,
with
recordemos
which you
cuando
can
gobernaba
talk,
aquí Duque,
where there is no
cuando
effort from the Colombian
gobernaba
side, like when
el señor
Duque
Uribe,
was
que
in power, or
un día en una
Mr.
conferencia
Uribe,
dijo que le faltó tiempo.
that once he said that he lacked time
Faltó tiempo para llenar el mundo de droga.
to fill the world of
Si hay un
drugs,
jefe de la droga en el mundo,
because
es Álvaro
there
Uribe.
is a true drug lord in the world is Alvaro
Y
Uribe.
hay detenidos de
In regards to those
de
detained,
varias nacionalidades.
there are people from different nationalities that have been detained.
Ayer, como
Yesterday,
decía,
as I
5
was saying,
fueron
5
capturados, son de
were
México,
captured, and they all came from, they are all Colombian, which are experts
con fibra de vidrio.
in the production of
¿Para qué? Eso lo utilizan para
fiberglass,
reparar lanchas en los
because
astilleros y para
they were the one in
reconstrucción
charge of repairing the boats and the construction
son
of
ingeniosos.
submersibles.
Pero yo debo decir,
They are very crafty.
solo un
I
comentario.
have to say,
Ponme,
one comment,
ponme el mapa de la droga, ¿cómo sale?
the map of the drug, how it exits.
Si por aquí sale el 87%
If
de
from
la
here
droga,
goes 87% of drugs,
y por aquí sale el
and
5%,
here is
por aquí
5%
sale el
on
8%,
this side, and this side is
¿quién despliegue
8%,
militar aquí en esta zona?
why is there a military deployment in this area to fight drug trafficking?
¿Por qué la hipocresía
Why the
de
hypocrisy
decir que es lucha contra
to
el
say that
narcotráfico?
it's the fight against drugs?
Si por aquí sale el 87%,
If 87% is on this side,
¿por qué no despliegan
why
aquí
don't they deploy on this area their fleets and planes to fight against 87% of the drug that comes from Colombia?
Curiosamente,
It's very
lo
curious.
despliegan y
It
están
is
preocupados
deployed
por
and they are
donde
concerned
supuestamente
where
sale
supposedly
el 5%.
there's only 5%.
Hipócritas. Se les caen.
They are hypocrites. They have no arguments.
Nada de eso nos va a detener a nosotros.
And none of what they do will stop
Por aquí
us.
garantizan al contrario.
Here they guarantee,
Garantizan
that's what they do, they guarantee the exit of drugs towards the United States, the DEA,
las bases militares en Estados
the
Unidos.
military bases of the US in Colombia.
Garantizan.
They guarantee the exit of drugs.
Gracias, Oscar. 2.219 kilómetros a lo largo y ancho. Imagínate tú.
La tercera pregunta la realiza Leandro Santiago por el medio Brasil de Fato.
Buenas tardes,
Good afternoon, Minister.
Quisiera saber si
I would like to
ustedes
know
saben de dónde es
if you
producido
know
todo ese
where
armamento que fue
all this
incautado,
weaponry that was seized was
estructura
produced and all that structure that was
y
seized.
quería aprovechar
And I wanted to
para
take
hablar
the
un poco sobre
opportunity
ese despliegue
to speak
militar,
about
despliegue militar
that
de-
military
No, no, es un punto
deployment
en serio.
that
Sí,
alleged.
entonces, quería
Well,
incluso aprovechar y preguntar cuál
I
es la
would like to
materialidad
ask,
de eso,
¿Cuál es la?
what,
materialidad, la concretud de ese despliegue. Ustedes tienen informaciones sobre eso.
what is the real situation of the deployment if you have information?
Mira,
Well,
yo la semana pasada no.
Last
estaba
week-
allí. Lorenzo, ¿verdad?
Lune,
Lorenzo, no estabas allí en
you were not there
Castillo.
in Natillo.
Presenté fusiles.
I presented
tiradores.
sniper rifles that were
Algunos de los
seized.
compañeros y compañeras
Some
estaban
of
ahí,
the colleagues were there
los vieron.
and they saw them.
Entre esas cosas,
Among those things,
habían 23, si mal no recuerdo.
there were 23, if I recall correctly, 22
Eran de fabricación norteamericana.
were US made.
Había una cosa que yo tengo que llenarme de asombro.
There was something
Un
that
fusil de
truly
francotirador
amazes,
con su
that
procesador
truly
de sonido,
astonishes,
es decir, con
which it was a
silenciador,
sniper rifle with a silencer,
.50.
caliber .50 caliber.
Sí. .50. ¿Qué es esto en términos prácticos?
What does
Nadie
this
tiene
mean?
eso en su casa
No one has this kind of weaponry
para
at home.
guindar la ropa, tirar la ropa. No, no, no. Eso es a 1 kilómetro. Un mal tirador, un mal francotirador a 1 kilómetro,
A bad sniper, 1 kilometer away,
apuntar,
can aim,
partir una persona en dos y nadie escucha.
tear a person in half, and no one would listen.
Eso es lo que quieren aquí en Venezuela.
That's what they want to do here in Venezuela. Violence. We experienced this, Lorenzo, in 2002,
Cuando los mismos
when
que hoy pertenecen
the
a
same
las
people
narcobandas
that today belong to these
pusieron
drug
francotiradores
gangs
en Venezuela y
put
asesinaron
snipers
a
in
sus
Venezuela
dirigentes.
and killed their own
Yo
people.
siempre recuerdo el
I always remember this.
la primera persona herida
The first injured person
por los
by
por
those
francotiradores
snipers was
trabaja en la vicepresidencia,
someone that worked in the vice presidency,
era del
a
segundo,
young man,
y cuando abrió un portón me dio un tiro en la cabeza.
and when he opened a door, he was shot in the head.
La almirante Carmen Valente, nuestra alcaldesa, los recogía en el patio del Palacio de Miraflores. Eran francotiradores en lugares cercanos.
There were snipers close.
¿Qué pretenden? ¿Qué pretenden?
What was
esta
the
alianza
aim?
criminal?
What do they aim with this criminal alliance of political
Conspiradores con narcotráfico y con lo
sectors
que queda de bandas
are
delictivas.
conspiring with drug traffickers and what remains of
No
criminal
tienen
groups?
ninguna medida porque no tienen escrúpulos.
What is their aim?
Tanto
They have
el
no,
servicio
they have
de
no
inteligencia
values because they don't care. They
y
are
el despliegue que
in the
nosotros
service
hacemos dentro
of
del territorio
violence. And the
venezolano
deployment that we're doing
es real.
within the Venezuelan territory is real. We cannot lie. We are not going to we cannot say we're going to deploy 3,000 men and then we don't do it. No, we do it. And we care for our territory,
valga el término terrestre, pero también el aéreo.
both land and
El jefe del
air,
Mayor General Tremont, y también todas nuestras aguas.
and
sean
also
bien
all
sean
our
de
waters,
río o
whether
bien
it
sean
is a river
de mares.
or
Debe
sea.
saber el mundo que,
The world must know
lo sabe el mundo,
well,
que
the
la
world knows
fachada norte de Venezuela,
that the north coast of Venezuela
el Mar Caribe.
is in the Caribbean Sea.
Tránsito por el Atlántico, no tenemos nada.
We have
nada,
a small
nada,
area of the
nada
Atlantic,
por el Pacífico.
but we have nothing
Quisiéramos tener
on the
una
Pacific. We would like to, but we don't have one.
Ni un centímetro por el
Not
Pacífico.
a centimeter we have
Por el
on the
Pacífico
Pacific.
tiene Colombia,
On the
por el
Pacific
Pacífico
is
tiene
Colombia,
Ecuador,
is Ecuador,
y
is
todo lo
Peru,
que va.
and all the other countries
Que por
going
eso
south,
El 87% de las
which
drogas
represent 87%
que se
of
hacen
drugs
en Colombia.
produced in
Nosotros lo hacemos
Colombia.
por proteger nuestra frontera.
And we do it to protect
Sobre
our
todo,
border,
lo ha dicho nuestro
and
presidente,
above all,
es la garantía de
our
paz.
president has said this, is the guarantee of
Ellos
peace.
han jugado, Lorenzo,
They have played,
hacia el
Lorenzo,
mundo
to
que
say the
Venezuela
world
es
that
asediada.
Venezuela is sieged,
Que Venezuela aquí hay
that,
tanques, qué
that
sé
in
yo,
Venezuela there are
y guerras
tanks
en cualquier
and there's
país.
wars on
Venezuela
the
tiene
streets.
hoy,
Venezuela has today,
Lorenzo, gracias a la
Lorenzo,
política,
thanks to the policies, to our
uno de
policies,
los índices, y yo
one
no
of
voy a
the
decir que es el más bajo,
lowest, I won't say the lowest, but it is there to see,
de crímenes por cada
of
100.000
crimes
habitantes,
by 100,000 inhabitants, 1.92. 1.92.
Douglas Rico que lleva eso al detalle cada semana. Por ejemplo,
For example,
aquí,
here,
en esta ciudad hermosa de
in this
Caracas,
beautiful city of Caracas,
en esta ciudad hermosa de Caracas, era común un fin de semana
it was very common on a weekend
muertos.
to see 30 dead on a
Estoy
weekend.
hablando del siglo pasado.
And I'm not speaking about last
Bueno, sí, del
century.
siglo pasado, pero no te estoy hablando
Well,
de-
last
de
century, but
1900
I'm not
en la
talking
guerra
about
mundial. No, no, no.
1930s or the 40s.
En los 80, en los 90,
They killed young men here in the 80s and the 90s just for a pair of shoes. And you can ask,
de eso hay registro en todos los medios.
all medias have record of this, that today our country has 1.92 crimes
Cada 100.000
per
habitantes,
100,000
no
inhabitants.
tiene casi ningún país.
Almost no country has this in the world.
Casi ningún país del mundo. Algunos que tienen y pagan propaganda.
There are some that
Yo no sé
pay
qué,
propaganda,
ellos hacen
and,
el trabajo. Aquí cualquier persona.
but we in
las
silence do the
organizaciones
work.
que hicieron de barrios aquí en Venezuela. Terrible.
The vilification they did of neighborhoods here in Venezuela, why do they did that? Why do they vilify the neighborhoods?
Pero ¿dónde encontramos
Because
nosotros
that's where the
armas?
humble people live.
En un barrio.
But where do we find the weapons? In a neighborhood?
Vamos al Atillo,
No.
el periodista que fue a
We
una
find it
casa
in
donde-
Atrillo. There are journalists here that went to the home where we
¿Quién
went.
las trae?
Who brought them?
Muchacho del barrio,
A young man from a neighborhood? No,
pero los satanizaron.
but they were vilified
Porque ellos dijeron, ser
Because-
pobre es sinónimo
because
de
they
ser
said
delincuente.
that being poor is synonym of being a
Y los
criminal.
venezolanos somos de origen humilde.
Most Venezuelans come from humble origins,
Pues quienes se creyeron dueños de este país,
and those that believe to be the owners of this country, they didn't care at all to do it.
bueno, los tiene el comisario Douglas Rico, están a
Commis-
orden de quien sea para
Commissioner
revisar
Douglas Rico has the figures,
como quieran,
and anyone that wants to check them,
como quieran.
they can do it.
Hoy en la mañana, todos los lunes,
Every Monday, this gentleman hands the summary. I have it on my phone here.
para que no vayan a parar. Y esto es, y tengo, mira, Douglas Rico, reporte
Douglas
semana
Rico,
34,
weekly report, 34, right?
semana 34.
Week 34.
Va. Para este momento. O sea, comparado este año.
So,
con el año
comparing
pasado,
this year with last year,
19
we have
homicidios
we have
menos.
219 less homicides compared to last year.
Esto es científico.
This is scientific fact.
Científico. Ah, la paz.
Peace.
Les duele la paz.
That's what bothers them. That's what bothers them. That's why our president has ordered this deployment to guarantee peace because if they want to go through the border, they won't be able to.
Creo que el venezolano con su forma de ser
I think that Venezuelans with their way of being,
feliz
as other countries as well,
y quiere vivir
is a people that loves happiness and wants to live in peace. And the people are tired of threats and of the illusions.
Mira, aquí está, perdón. ¿No está aquí? ¿Se ve? Aquí están los gráficos. Estos son los gráficos que pasa este caballero.
These are the charts that this gentleman sends every week.
Claro, los imprimo y los veo porque no los
I have to print them because it's very small. I have to imprint them so I can see it fully.
Mira, esto es. Esto fue.
See here?
Esta es la .50 con su
This is the .50 caliber with its
normal y más pesado.
silencer, which is bigger than a regular rifle.
Esto fue lo que encontramos.
This is what we found.
En un barrio de Caracas.
We did not find this in a poor neighborhood in Caracas. This was not brought here by the humble people.
¿Quién lo trajo?
Who brought this here?
¿Quién lo trajo? ¿Para qué lo trajeron?
With what purpose?
¿Contra quién lo iban a usar? Eso
Against
no es
whom
convencional.
was going to be used?
Y no-
That's
no,
not conventional.
Tampoco, no. Vamos a practicar tiro blanco con una .50. Pon ahí
And
el
it's not
blanco.
used also for
Eso es
competing.
Sí. Eso lo utilizaron. Ahí hay cartuchos.
There are rounds there. That rifle,
Búsquenlo.
you can look it up.
Hay cartuchos, ¿verdad, Juan? Que
There are
atraviesan
rounds that are able to
el
penetrate
muro. Mire, el
the
muro
wall
que separa las autopistas,
that
ese
wall
muro
that
de concreto,
separates the highway,
le
that
disparan y los atraviesa.
concrete wall.
Imagínense
They can fire with this and go through it.
Ese cartucho fue
Imagine
el primero que
a human
utilizaron
being.
en defensa antiaérea.
Those bullets were the first ones used in anti-air defenses,
Y lo traen para acá.
and they brought it here,
narcobandas.
the drug guns, to kill their own people.
Gracias, Lorenzo.
La cuarta y última pregunta la realiza María Jiménez por Venezolana de Televisión.
Muy buenos días,
Buenos días,
ministro.
María.
Dos preguntas.
Two questions.
Estos anuncios que acaba de
This
dar a conocer
announcement
el
that
día
you
de hoy, la
just
activación
made
de la
this
zona
year,
de
the
paz
activation
número
of the
uno,
Son of Peace
le dan
number 1,
una nueva tarea a
gives
los cuadrantes de paz
a
en
new
los
task
estados
for the
Táchira
Quadrant
y
of
Zulia.
Peace in Táchira
Y
and
si se
Peace.
activan las comunas, los
And
circuitos
the communes will be
comunales con estas
activated,
nuevas
the communal circuits
instrucciones.
with these instructions.
También quería preguntarle
I wanted
porque
also
las
to ask
agencias de noticias
that
internacionales
international
persisten
media,
en
they
algunas
persist
narrativas.
in some
Se cayó
narratives.
la falsa narrativa del extinto tren de Aragua
The false
y ahora
narrative
Estados
of
Unidos
Tren
desempolva
Aragua
la del cartel.
came down. Now is trying to use once more that the one of the drug cartel, Soles. Why this excuse? Why do they want to involve Venezuela with these narratives, including the Sinaloa cartel, when Venezuela has had an efficient policy in fighting drug trafficking? You were already providing this information with the UN report against drug and crime.
Claro que los cuadrantes de paz son
Well,
fundamentales.
of course, the quadrants of peace are essential.
Nosotros comenzamos, ya
We
tenemos
began,
todo el estado de La Guaira,
we have all the La Guaira state
geografía
with the new
de
geography
los cuadrantes de paz,
of the quadrants of peace
acompañada,
that are accompanied
que está acompañada de lo que es los circuitos comunales,
of what is the communal circuits or the communes where
en
they
la
exist.
territorialización de la paz. En este
It's making peace
ya nosotros
in,
tenemos
as a
Caracas
territory.
listo. Caracas
So
son
we have
290,
Caracas ready, there are 200 or 200.
73 hay en el estado de La Guaira.
There are 73 in La Guaira and in Petare.
Saben
In
ustedes
Petare, you know,
del plan piloto que se hizo en
of
Petare.
the
Petare es una de las zonas
pilot
populares de
plan.
Venezuela estigmatizada,
Petare is one of the
señaladas.
urban areas of Venezuela that have been
Decían que
stigmatized.
era el barrio
They said that it was the most violent neighborhood in the world. That's what they say
Nosotros eso creo que fue en febrero.
when they spoke of
Lo
Petare.
cierto es que en 6 meses un solo asesinato había.
We began this in February, I believe, and in these 6 months, there's already been one homicide.
Sirve.
So it
Sirve para la
works.
paz, y la paz es integral, la paz
It
no es
functions
solo,
for peace.
que no pasen estas cosas, la paz es evitar
Peace
que
is
ocurran.
not only that it does not happen,
Cuando ocurre, sino evitar que
it's not
ocurra.
only the answer to when it happens, but also to prevent
Policial,
these things from
militar
happening.
y el pueblo
When you
pendiente,
have
ahí está
the militias, the police, the military, and the people all involved, that's why
La semana pasada, ¿verdad? Iba para allá, para
results are
el
guaranteed.
Zulia.
Last week we were going to
La
Zulia.
revisión de los cuadrantes de paz.
We're going to go over the quadrants of
Entregando
peace.
movilidad,
We were handing over bikes and vehicles and communication
y
devices.
ahora le vamos a ver-
And
a
now
agregar
we are going to add
un sistema de cámaras
a camera system
que los propios cuadrantes de paz
that the quadrants of peace
en sus proyectos
themselves in their
han presentado
projects
y han sido exitosos.
have presented and have been successful. So we're going to take this to the whole of Venezuela.
Circuitos comunales que han presentado
There are communal
su propio
circuits that
sistema
have presented their own system of security
que contempla la adquisición de cámaras,
that
una sala de
include the
control con las
acquisition
cámaras.
of cameras with a control room in different points. Well,
Eso no es tan caro.
that's not that expensive, so it can be
Fíjate que los
done.
circuitos comunales piensan
The communal
que
circuits
lo que ocurre
think
aquí todo va a quedar grabado.
whatever happens here is going to be recorded. How many things have we discovered thanks to those cameras? There we have the case of Plaza Venezuela.
Olvidarlo,
People tend to forget.
¿cuántos muertos hubiese habido en
How many
Venezuela
dead
si
would there
hubiera
have been in that square if those explosives had
que
exploded?
habían colocado allí? Capturados, ¿ah? Los artefactos, capturados todos los autores
All the
materiales,
people involved have been detained.
todos. Ahorita estamos nosotros con la cuerdita.
Now we are still pulling the thread
Yo le dije,
of the
"Nadie se
ones
vaya
in
a
charge of
sorprender
financing.
cuando agarremos
And I
y
warn,
saquemos
no one should
¿cómo
be
que dicen en el Zulia,
surprised
Luis, los cuadritos, las cajitas. Cuando aparezcan en una cajita de esas, ¿cómo se llama? De los ampogramas. A esas cajitas se refiere. Por eso hay 24 autores materiales. Mira, encontramos a una
there are
gente
24 people
en una
involved that have been
cueva.
detained.
Los últimos
We
dos,
found
¿verdad,
the final two.
¿verdad, señor Branco, ¿verdad,
The
compañero?
final two, we found them in a cave
A 5 horas del sitio donde los dejó un carro.
5 hours from where a
Y
car had
los
left them,
sabuesos ahí llegaron.
and our hounds
Así que
found
se
them.
metan donde se metan,
So no matter where they go, we are going to find them.
no van a quedar impunes.
Justice will
Los
be
autores
served.
intelectuales, todos sabemos.
The masterminds, we all know who they are.
Todo eso está embarrado de ambición personal
This is all marked by personal ambitions of those that do not have the votes, yet want the power because their families told them that they were going to be president. One of them is Maria Corina Machado, that has no shame, that does alliances with criminal groups and drug trafficking alliances. And I say once more, when New York Times says this, that's when they're going to believe it.
Cartel de Jalisco fue que dijiste, tiene contacto es con ella,
The,
no
per-
es con el gobierno.
the cartel Jalisco, they have contacts with her, not with the government. The paramilitary drug trafficking gangs in Colombia, they have contact with her through Uribe and Duque and through Lady Davilas, who are her friends. It's not with us that they have linked drug traffickers. And the narrative, well, it's not only the narrative of Tren Aragua, because it is important to go over this. Tren Aragua, all those that went to El Salvador Tren Aragua, not a single one. Of the 252, not a single one was linked to the Tren Aragua. Tren Aragua, we ended it here, and what remains of that of Tren Aragua, we know who they are. Moreover, we know where they are, and we have denounced them, but they have found protection in Colombia, in Chile. So when they say Tren Aragua, we prove them here that they do not belong to the Tren Aragua.
Les demostramos que no son del Tren de Aragua. Eso fue donde los encontraron, ¿eh? Les demostramos que no son del Tren de Aragua. Bien, la narrativa, nos han acusado de terroristas.
We have been accused of terrorism.
Se le ha caído también.
that's also been dismantled. So every so and again, they recycle their narratives.
Vuelvo otra vez al mapa.
What is true when I go back to the map,
Mapa de la ONU.
the map of the UN,
De la ONU. Si Estados Unidos,
if the United
si los
States,
países del mundo
if the
quisieran
countries
luchar
of the
contra el
world
narcotráfico,
wanted to fight against drug trafficking,
¿qué me dice sentido común? ¿Dónde
what
estarían
does
desplegadas
common sense says? Where
todas las
would they
fuerzas
be
militar,
deployed?
naval,
All that
aérea, para
military,
luchar
naval,
contra el
air force to
narcotráfico
fight drug
que
trafficking
sale de Colombia?
that comes from Colombia,
Aquí,
it would be
en el
here
Pacífico,
in the Pacific,
porque sale el 87%
because
de la droga.
87% of drug goes there.
Entonces, no hay voluntad, en verdad,
So
de
there
luchar
is not
contra
a
el
real
narcotráfico.
will to
Voluntad de
fight
otra
against
cosa,
drug
pero
trafficking.
no es luchar contra el
They have
narcotráfico.
a will to do something else, but not fighting drug trafficking.
Porque esa droga
Because
va para
that
dónde?
drug goes to the United States,
Para Europa.
to Europe.
Si quieren, nosotros
If they
nos
want,
ponemos modestamente a la orden,
and
de
we
hecho,
have,
para que vean cómo se combate el narcotráfico de verdad.
and we are at this position to show them how do you truly fight against drug trafficking, how you truly care for the border of a country.
Ninguno de ellos.
We do not
Su narrativa,
allow
nosotros no podemos evitarla.
them to do anything.
Que ellos digan
Their narrative,
cosas,
we cannot
lo que sí es la realidad, cosas
avoid
como
them
esa,
saying whatever they want. But what is a reality
cosas
is
como
that.
esa, que si yo tengo por aquí, por esta vía, 87%
So if I have on this side 87% of the drugs,
sale el 5%.
why would I concern myself where there's only 5% of the drug coming out? Why?
No los mueve la droga entonces.
So it's not drug what they want to fight, it's something else.
Y además se quieren asegurar que ese 87
And also they want to guarantee that 87% reach their destination.
uno a estas alturas piensa que cuando ellos se mueven es para garantizar
One
la
now
ruta de algún cargamento.
believes that when they move, it's actually to guarantee the movement of achievement they care
Se
about,
olvida el mundo de
or the
supuestas
world
aquellas
forgets
entregas controladas que hacía la DEA.
about the so-called controlled deliveries that
Hasta
the
que
DEA
Comando
made
Chávez rompió con la DEA.
until Commander Chavez broke with the
Bueno, a
DEA.
partir de este momento,
Well, from
nosotros
this moment
cumpliendo la
on,
instrucción que da el hermano
fulfilling with the instruction
presidente
that
Nicolás
our
Maduro
brother President Nicolas Maduro gave,
a la
we are
activación
going to
de
activate
la zona de paz número 1,
of the Son of Peace number 1,
Zulia y Táchira,
Zulia Táchira,
con toda una fuerza,
with
15,000 hombres en una primera
15,000
etapa, medios,
men and
aviones,
women in a first stage with all the equipment
drones,
necessary,
vamos a
drones,
usar y
ships,
estamos usando drones.
because we're going to use, and we have
Todo
been
esto se
using
descubre con
drones.
qué?
All this,
Aviación y drones.
all this is discovered through deviation and drones.
Aviación y drones. Chequeamos, revisamos y actuamos. Y actuamos. Si, repito, si quieren, nosotros estamos a la orden modestamente.
So if they want, we are in this position to President Nicolas always say this, and we
Del lado colombiano, hagamos
hope that the Colombian side does the same on their side of the border to prevent that any group can move
de un lado para otro.
from one side to the
La
other.
mayor garantía
It's the best guarantee
de la tranquilidad de la frontera.
and
Que cada quien
tranquility
en
of the
su
border
área
that each on their
todito
side
debe ser.
cares for it
Bueno,
as it
muchísimas
must be.
gracias. Les agradezco
Thank you
los
very much.
compañeros
I
presidentes,
welcome
los gobernadores,
people here,
pero la Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana,
Bolivarian
el
Armed Forces
general
personnel
jefe
that
Padrino que estaba
are
pendiente,
present here,
al general en jefe Hernández Lares, a todos los cuerpos policiales, por estar acá, a ustedes por escuchar.
I welcome
Y les pido
all journalists also here that came here to listen, and I call that this is broadcasted.
bien bueno que el mundo maneje ese mapa.
It's very good that the world knows about this map
Ojalá lo
on
manejen
how the
todos,
drug is
para que
moved.
toda la narrativa contra nuestro país se caiga sola, como se han venido
I hope
haciendo.
that everyone would know about this so that all those narratives against our country can be dismantled. Well, we were listening to the statements of the Minister of Interior Justice, Diosdado Cabello, giving a summary of all the actions that have been made in the fight against drug trafficking and all the operations that are being deployed along the Venezuelan territory to fight and to prevent and to preserve the peace and tranquility of the country. In this occasion, the minister made the announcement of the activation by the orders of President Nicolas Maduro of the Son of Peace number 1, the first Son of Peace. There are going to be then others that are already being planned and strategized for their activation, but right now this first Son of Peace which covers on the Colombian side, regions of the Colombian side, are already being activated, and over 15,000 men and women of the Bolivarian Armed Forces are going to be deployed there on the Venezuelan side of the border to preserve peace and to guarantee the tranquility of the people. Well, like this, we have come to the